That's too loud. That's too.
Lock us in and connect with trades in our new facility. 317-972-3008 from your inspirational request. This is the only number you need. 317-972-3008. That's 317-972-3008.
Second, standby.
Inspiration Station. Praise AM 1310, 95.1 FM. The following is a paid program. The views and opinions expressed are those of the sponsor and do not necessarily reflect the views of Radio 1, WTLC AM 1310, 95.1 FM, and its management.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Unity in the Community. I'm your host, Pastor James Jackson. Good to be with you on this beautiful afternoon in the capital city. Hope that you're doing well. We are headed towards spring. How about that? Days are kind of up and down. Sometimes it's warm, like today, or I should say mild, and then cold, like it was yesterday. Snow, but that's Indiana, but not as bad as it used to be when I was growing up as a kid. So weather certainly has changed in Indianapolis quite a bit. But anyway, hope that you're doing well. Hope you're enjoying the day that God has given us on today. Every day is a wonderful day that we're able to enjoy it on this side. So do something that you love to do. Enjoy yourself. We got a great show for you on today. The number that you're going to need to connect to the show today is 317-972-3008. Again, 317-972-3008. If you've ever been wondering how you can get some programs going with grant money, there's still a lot of money out there, even though there's a lot of changes happening across the country. There's still a lot of money out there that people want to give to folks who are running viable and programs that are helping people. And if you have a program, you definitely want to be locked in today's show. We have a wonderful guest who's going to be talking about some strategies for you to be able to secure some grants. And if you want to use her services, you can do that too. She is absolutely the guru when it comes to grants and being able to develop 501c3s, things like that. And I'm not just telling you something that I heard about, but have used her services down through the years. And she is second to none, A plus, top shelf. And you're going to meet her in just a few moments. But first, I want to have a word of prayer and then kind of talk about some things that I hope that you will be doing in the city as we move forward into the warmer weather. Father, we thank you and we praise you for all things that you've done. We give you the glory and the honor and the praise. You are good and your mercy endures forever. We thank you for this opportunity that we have to disseminate information over these frequencies today, the radio AM 1310, 95.1, and our streaming platforms. We just give you praise. We ask that someone would be blessed, someone would be informed, and someone would be helped in a great way. In Jesus' name, amen. Again, welcome to the show, Unity in the Community. We're so glad that you are here. I want to encourage you as we are moving forward into warmer weather. The feel with regard to public safety, and that's a passion that I have had for quite some time. Public safety. I work with a lot of local people with regard to public safety in our city and the different things that happen. And the feel is a bit better to me with regard to homicides and people getting killed. It's not happening as often. It's still happening, but not happening as often as it has been in the past. And I'm very grateful for that, and praying for Chief Bailey and IMPD and the sheriff and all the folks who are responsible for public safety, of course, the mayor and the city council. So whatever they are doing, and all the other folks who are in our city working for the peace of the city. I hope that everyone will scale up those efforts and continue doing it so that everybody knows that Indianapolis is not commodious to commit crime in. And that was something Superintendent Colbert back in the late 1800s, 1890s would always say. They were really aggressive when it came to running criminals out of Indianapolis. It was a little bit different back then than it is now, and the city was not as large. But one of the things that he used to say when he would give reports to the local government is that Indianapolis was not a city commodious to commit crime in. And we certainly want that to be something that everyone knows today and do everything that we can possibly do to make sure that is the gold standard for the city of Indianapolis. And everybody has to be involved in that. And even if you're not part of a program, even if you're not out there doing something physically, you, if you have a job, are paying into public safety part of your dollars. It used to be if you looked on your pay stub, you would see what was called the county option income tax. I don't know if they still call it that. I think it was COIT in short, but county option income tax. And so I would say to people, well, everybody is doing something if they're working because they take that out and that becomes a part of the public safety budget, which incidentally, the public safety budget for Indianapolis makes up most of the city's over $1 billion that is spent every year. So our city spends an extraordinary amount of money on public safety. What if we could do so well in that area of public safety where a lot of that money would no longer have to be spent on a lot of the things that it's spent on with regard to trying to make sure that Indianapolis is safe. And I don't mean that we reduce services and things like that, but people just change the way they do things and love each other and look out for each other. And it just becomes a friendly city. And we just don't have those kinds of problems as much as we do. But for now, the public safety part of the budget is just a big, big part of it. And let's keep those folks in prayer. Let's make sure that we're praying for them because they have a big job to do. You know, if you're not involved in public safety, if you're not a police officer, a fireman or firewoman, if you're not in the emergency response business, or if you're not in the ER. And there's a lot of money spent in the ER. You know, when someone gets shot, I did a study a few years ago on what happens in Chicago in the ER, and upwards of some $1 million per person. You know, someone gets shot, even if they don't die. In fact, if they don't die, a lot of money is spent trying to keep them alive and to get them back to their family. It is very, very expensive. And so when you count up all that money, it's in the tens of millions of dollars. So there's a lot of money in violence and homicide and murder and all of that. So whatever you're doing, those of you who are doing anything to make Indianapolis a safer place, starting with your house, and it has to start with each one of us individually. To making sure that you are, there's a scripture that says, as much as lieth in you, live peaceably with all men. So it starts with each and every one of us making sure that we're okay with ourselves, that we love ourselves, that we love God, and then we can go on to love other people. So hopefully you're doing that, and hopefully you're communicating that to other people around you. But as we move into the warmer weather, please be sure that you're keeping up with your children. There's a lot going on in our city where our young people are concerned. That certainly concerns me. Our young people are exposed to so much more than we were when we were teens and preteens and elementary school and all that thing. You know, when I was growing up, you didn't have all these channels like you got. I mean, you had channel 4 on UHF, and then you had 6, 8, and 13 on VHF. And then at somewhere around about midnight, uh, the music would come on and the bars would come on, and you wouldn't have anything until the next day. So now it's wall to wall transmission 24/7, 365 days out of the week. If you turn it on, social media, whatever, there is something happening on that screen. And our kids are constantly inundated with images and so many things. And I was sharing with someone the other day, I said, make sure that you look over there and look at what your child is watching, or ask them, what are you watching there? They've got these headphones on and earbuds and things like that. And just ask them, hey, what are you looking at there? What's going on there? And you want to stay in your child's quality world. You want to make sure that you're involved. Don't allow these devices to be their caregivers. Don't allow the devices to be something that you say, well, that gives me a break. If they're doing that, then I don't have to worry about it. Make sure that you are asking them what they are watching. And with the headsets, you don't know what kind of things are being said, what kind of lyrical content that's going into their spirit. Spiritual formation is a real thing. When I talk about spiritual formation, it is not just limited to church. Spiritual formation involves things like character and virtue and honesty and all kinds of things like that. So, and that can be influenced by a lot of different things that doesn't have anything to do with church. We just want to make sure, and I want to make sure that that you want to make sure that there are positive things going down or entering into the spirit of your child, because we all become what we think about all day. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "A man becomes what he thinks about all day." And I think that's true, because the Bible says, whatsoever a man thinketh, he becomes that. And so, whatever your kids are watching, listening to, whatever they're exposed to, in fact, when they're around you, whatever they're seeing, whatever they're absorbing from your behavior, that is how they are being formed. And as we move forward into this warmer weather, of course, year round, it's important, but let's make sure we're doing as much positive things as possible. None of us are perfect. None of us are 100%, but all of us can do better. And I want to congratulate you on whatever you're doing now, and however you're doing it, whatever effort that you are making to make Indianapolis better, your house, your block, your street. Thank you. All right, we're going to get right into it with our guest on today. Again, the number that you need to call if you have a question is 317-972-3008. Again, that's 317-972-3008. And I have Felicia Brewer here in the studio. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's good to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you. I certainly appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, I've known you for a little while.
It's been a long time. Yes.
Yeah. And thank you for the work that you have done for Fervent Prayer Church and Fervent Care Child Care and Christian Academy, and recently the work that you did for the Get Well Now Resource Center, which was Get Well Now. Whenever I needed something, I give you a call, and you were always responsive, and God is taking care of. And we have been able to help tens of thousands of people, maybe more than that, but at least tens of thousands of people have been helped in our city, and due in part to the connection, the relationship that I've had with you. So thank you.
You are very welcome.
And you're thorough, and you do a great job, and we appreciate you. So want to give you an opportunity, and for those of you who are listening, this is Felicia Brewer of Brewer and Associates, and she does consulting. She'll tell you more about the scope of her services, but grant writing, if you want to get a 501c3. And I was saying, there's still a lot of money out here, and there's never any shortage of money. A lot of people just think, well, there's the federal dollars, and there's competition for that, and there's a lot of people who go for federal dollars, but there's philanthropic money out there, a lot of private money out there. There's just a lot of money that you may not be aware of, but people like Felicia, this is what they do 24/7. This is what they do for a living, and so they know things that you might not know, and they might know about sources of money that she can direct you to, and so that you can get funded and scale up your program. So, Felicia, I've kind of done a little introduction here, but give us the full scope of who you are and what you do.
Well, thank you again for allowing me this opportunity. Again, Felicia Brewer, Brewer and Associates. We are an organization, actually company, because I am a for-profit, that's been around for 22 years. When I began my consulting practice, there wasn't a lot of persons that looked like me serving our community. So that was the reason that I actually started, and I had a passion for grassroots organizations, which led me, I started out in grant writing, but as I continued to figure out the landscape of the needs, that's when I expanded more into fundraising and really the nonprofit management aspect of the philanthropic space.
And when you talk about grant writing and fundraising, certainly the grant writing piece is a skill. Well, fundraising is a skill too,
Yes.
but kind of talk about the different nuances of those two and what people need to know if they're going to be successful at either of them, if
Well,
not both.
yes. So most organizations start with grant writing, just depending on where they are, excuse me, in their landscape. So that kind of gives them a foundation to start developing their programs, and get their infrastructure in place. And then we expand, ideally, into a full-blown fundraising program. And that's where they're incorporating corporate giving, planned giving, major gifts, individual giving. So in the fundraising space, it's really ideal to develop your individual donors because that is going to help serve in the long term. And there's different statistics as to what ideally that should look like in your mix, but it really depends on your organization. So it's kind of but 80%, if we could stay in that space of individual donors, that would be awesome. The reality is most organizations that I work with, and I serve the Midwest, um, are organizations with budgets $500,000 to about $2 million, and they're probably about 80% of those are actually more reliant on grant. So they're actually kind of upside down. So at 80%, 70-80% reliant on grants, and then maybe 20% with the other mix of fundraising strategies.
So, what are some of the biggest mistakes that organizations make, 501(c)(3)s make when they're trying to get money? That you would say, well, this is number one, don't do this. This is number two, don't do this, and this is number three, definitely don't do this. If there's three.
Ooh, there's a lot. So one of the workshops that I do, because I did not share what the company does, which is organizational readiness, which we talk about. That's a lot of that's in the 501(c)(3) space, board development, strategic planning, um, fundraising. I don't do plan giving, and then but I do a lot of capacity building, and those are focused on workshops, curriculum that I designed several years ago. But the 501(c)(3) are not, is exactly what you were talking about. As far as mistakes, most folks do not really understand the difference between even being tax exempt and being a 501, full 501(c)(3) nonprofit organization. When you're exempt, that means you have state recognition. And if you are a full 501(c)(3), then that's when you've gone through the application process with the IRS. So I would say number one, not necessarily understanding what the 501(c)(3) and the differences between a nonprofit and sometimes even for profit. Number two, mistake is not planning. Number two is not really having the business infrastructure in place or even having somewhat of an idea of what that looks like. I have a program, but really understanding my business model. I don't understand that. Then third would be probably lack of planning.
So you also provide services for people who might want to have a 501(c)(3). You still do that?
I still do. I've been doing that probably about 20 years
Yeah.
of my consulting practice. And, I try to be very responsive to those that access my services. And so I built my services, pretty much anything that has to do with starting a nonprofit or closing a nonprofit. In some cases, that's what I do. So I could be doing program development, I could be doing evaluation, of not only the organization, but also of those programs. I do a lot of community engagement and relationship building.
And when you talk about closing a nonprofit, what would be some reasons that a nonprofit leader might consider that?
Could be the founder has been with the organization for 30, 40 years, and they're tired. There's no one to actually take over. So the board and the founder decides that they want to close their doors.
Mhm.
So they do. And so I just kind of walk them through that process.
So is that an
Looks like-
application where you have to file something with the federal government, or how does that work?
No, you just have to notify. There are different forms, yes, that you have to complete, as well as to the state as federal level. But the other part of that is, what do your bylaws say? You know, how do you dissolve the organization?
All right, folks, we've got Felicia Brewer. She is the expert when it comes to 501c3s, also grants and strategies and grant seeking, also some other things that she's doing. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back with more after this.
So you're not necessarily the expert of 501c3s, because I'm not an attorney. But I know enough to be dangerous, I would say. Okay.
Expert 501c3.
So again, now?
Expert in the 501c3.
Yeah, there we go. I can tell you how to get there, yes, and I can do it.
Listen to the St. John Baptist Church broadcast Sunday morning at 9 a.m. on Praise at 8 a.m. 13 and 95.
I'm assuming my mic is okay.
Hmm?
I'm assuming my mic is okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Okay. All right, just making.
I can still hear you on there too.
Second.
And people can still hear you on there too.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool.
Vegetables and herbs on sale now. It's the perfect time to plant seeds indoors and have them ready for spring. Start your garden and save big money on Burpee seeds. Plus, check out our weekly flyer on Menards.com for all the great deals happening now. Quality care, remarkable people. Eskenazi Health is looking for dedicated professionals who have a passion for their community. Named as one of the best employers in the state by Forbes magazine, and the #1 health system in Indiana for community benefit by the Loud Institute. Eskenazi Health provides excellent benefits, competitive pay, and unwavering leadership support. Learn how a career at Eskenazi Health can benefit you by visiting eskenazihealth.edu/careers. Still under warranty? No, not anymore.
When you asked me about, like, why did somebody close their doors? I almost went like way to the extreme. I'm like, what's the executive director and Elsa's money? So they gotta close. I was like, oh, anyway, so I was like, yeah, let me find a better example.
That's a little different, but that one is good too. People, it's just not something you want to do.
Mhm.
But
It's a safe one.
it's not just letting it linger on.
Mhm. Yes, and I mean, I'm seeing it more often than not. Definitely, yeah. I probably work with about the last 2.5 years. Maybe because of COVID.
For your free quote, 800
Maybe because I'm getting tired. Just doing it before, so that I work with, the organization about maybe 5 years. Which is, I think, it's done. Okay. Here, this is what that looks like.
One day, all new Fatal Attraction. If I can't have her, then no one's gonna have her. Wednesday,
15 seconds, stand by.
thankfully, she's deeply entangled with the whole thing. Yes, true crime with Fatal Attraction. Monday at 9 and For My Man. Wednesday at 9 on TV1.
All right, welcome back to Unity in the Community. A beautiful Saturday on this afternoon. Hope that you are doing well. We are here with Felicia Brewer, Brewer and Associates. If you want to learn more about grant writing and successfully being able to get money so that you can fund your 501c3, your nonprofit, then she is the expert and can help you with strategies for grant seeking and being able to get some money. Felicia, you've got a program or a training coming up in May,
I do.
May 1st and 2nd. Talk to us about that.
So, I guess about maybe 3 years ago, I developed a program which is called the Strategy in Grant Seeking, and it's a cohort model. So it's not a large group of folks, but the what's foundational to it is business strategy. So of course we talk about the mechanics, we talk about the storytelling as it relates to grant writing, but it was really that part. There wasn't a comprehensive approach to writing. And again, I kind of mentioned it earlier in regards to people understanding their business model and how does all that fit? Because you can go and write a grant, but often what I hear when I do workshops, and I've been doing them for um, about 18 years now, people tell me, well, great example. I had a young lady that I was doing some coaching with, and they may be a client. I haven't figured that part out. But she said that they had worked with someone who had submitted roughly 75 grants, and they got a very minimal amount, like $15,000. So it's not about the volume of grants that you put out. It is the strategy, the relationship behind all of that. So there's just so many different components to it, and understanding the process. And that's where people like me can really help in not only being able to share what God has given me over the years to be able to share with others, but just be able to incorporate all of those things. And that's what this curriculum or this program is designed to do. On May 1st and 2nd is the kickoff of it, and then it's going to be followed up by 4 what I'm called learning labs. Um, and that's just a deeper dive where we can actually get into the business strategy, and it's designed to meet the organization where they are. So if we need some more support around grant seeking and how do you leverage your boards, or finances, and how do I really understand between my organizational budget and my annual operating budget, just kind of figuring out that strategy. And then how did that, if like I've had some organizations, they are completely 100% um, reliant on grants, and that's the space they want to stay in. Not my recommendation, but that's the space that they want to stay in. But it's like, okay, if your budget is $100,000, for example, how do you actually figure out the formula to actually make that happen? How many grants do you have to write to get there? So there's a strategy behind that, and those are some of the things that we talk about.
Do you find that a lot of funders are looking for sustainability and they're not really excited about the grant being the sustainability where this is if it weren't for the grant, then the program doesn't go.
Yeah, you have to have a strategy behind, or excuse me, a plan of just their grant. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I'm not sure how that. Um, there are some funders that are just great. It's like, okay, um, we don't want to. Let me say that differently. We don't want to be first to the party, so they're going to take a step back until you can get some other grants or some other funders. Um, Another thing that I would say in that space is that uh, funders want to see the diversity within your sources of revenue. So I don't want you to necessarily be all grants. However, depending on what that organization structure is, that's going to help determine that. But that's where having that conversation with the funder is going to be very critical. I actually encourage people to not write what I call a cold grant. Start having that conversation with the funder, and then that funder's with the program officer will actually help in guiding you. That's what they're there for. They become your advocate in helping you go through this process. So it's really important. Even if they might be the first funder, but they not necessarily being the only funder. So what is the plan after our grant is gone? is what you're gonna have to be able to answer.
So you say don't write cold grants. That's just say
That's
more about
that's
that.
my language, yes. Um, my success has been based on the relationships that I have forged over my career. Whether it is a new organization or even an organization that is seasoned, I'm still going to reach out to that program officer and tell them, hey, XYZ organization is interested in submitting a proposal, excuse me, focusing on this. Can we set up a meeting with you? And I would probably say majority of the time, organizations do not always take that step, and they'll just go in and write a proposal without having any connection, so they don't know, um, one, if there is alignment with the funder, and then two, how well that alignment fits with them. Because sometimes you can have aspects of your program that doesn't necessarily fit a funder's priorities, but there might be a component of what you do that fits the funder's priority. So even I have another client that where I'm working with, and they do one but they really have all of these wraparound services, and those wraparound services around the kids, that's their super part, because they have like a 96, I think 96% retention rate with their kids. So I mean, that's huge. That is very significant. So we've developed a strategy around the wraparound services, because they also have a fee for service model. And that's where they're actually charging for either some, might be a minor amount for the kids, but then also for the performances that they're doing. That's another source of revenue for them.
Yeah.
So with having the wraparound services and having that conversation with the funder, now been able to open up some doors for them to where are able to better serve the kids that they're working with.
317-972-3008. 317-972-3008 is the number to call if you have questions about 501c3s, grant seeking, grant writing, fundraising. Felicia Brewer and Brewer and Associates is here to answer your questions. Don't let this day get away without your questions being answered, and for free on this radio show.
Definitely on the radio.
In consulting, it'll be a fee, but right now you can ask some questions. She can give you a flyover of that and maybe a deeper conversation later on. Again, that's 317-972-3008. So a strategy and grant seeking cohort coming up May 1st and 2nd. How can people sign up for that?
Go to the website, which is www.fbaresources.com. Or you can call me.
Yeah, you can call Felicia at 317-445. I don't think I ever wrote the numbers down. 8932.
32.
So it's 317 445-8932, 317-445-8932. And one of the things that those of you who are listening who might have a gift for programs, maybe you have a gift for mentoring, maybe you have a gift for doing and leading affordable housing, or maybe you have a gift with working with autistic children. There are those of you who have gifts in programs, family services, counseling, and different things like that. And that might be something for you. It might be good for you to start a 501c3. It might be good for you to seek out grants and funding, philanthropic money, private money, and so on to get it out there and to help people. There are just some people who are really, really good at those kind of things, but maybe just don't have the infrastructure, the organization, or anything like that to make it go. But Felicia is the one that can help you in that area. And again, there's a lot of money out there. You just need to know where to go. You need to know what to do and how to position yourself so that you can make a difference and make an impact in the city of Indianapolis or wherever you're listening, because there are those of you who are listening in other cities and states too. But you just do Indiana, right?
No, I do Illinois,
Illinois?
Michigan,
Okay.
Ohio, and Kentucky.
So the American Midwest region.
Pretty much, yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly it. But you just said something that I want to make sure that I address, because you said that you basically, who if you have a passion to do something, you said you start a 501(c)(3), and not necessarily. What you could do just is starting a program.
Mhm.
So finding a partner with an organization who either is doing like services or just someone who could be what's called your fiscal sponsor.
Mhm.
So in why that is important is because as you're trying to figure out exactly what you want to do, how you want to do it, you have somebody that's helping to guide you along the way, so that by the time you get through, it's like, okay, yeah, I have a really solid program and this is how I want to do it. I have good, strong goals and outcomes. I know what impact I want to have, but I don't necessarily want to deal with a board of directors. I don't necessarily want to deal with the finances. So that's where a fiscal sponsor could come in with an organization.
So say more about the fiscal sponsor.
A fiscal sponsor is someone just basically will take in or receive, I should say, the grant money for an organization. So, or if you're just trying to figure out what your program is, they might be donating space
Mhm.
so that you can actually operate. They could be.
Now, is that
So
fiscal sponsor already a 501(c)(3)
the
or?
fiscal sponsor is a 501(c)(3). I'm sorry, I had two thoughts there. So one way to get started, or another way, I should say, to get started is to actually just start the program. So you're really doing it as a volunteer basis to kind of figure out, the nuts and bolts of things. And then it's like, okay, yeah, I kind of got this together. Then you can take it to the next step. It's like, I do want to go after funding. And that's where you could actually go into what's called a memorandum of understanding, or some people call it an operating agreement. It just depends on the relationship between the two. But what the fiscal sponsor does is that they're basically receiving the funds. They're actually submitting the grant on the organization that they're sponsoring behalf, and they're also managing the money. They're helping supporting with the reporting of that, because every funder is going to ask for some type of report as they're giving money away.
All right, 317-972-3008, 317-972-3008. If you have questions about nonprofit 501(c)(3, grant writing, grant seeking, Felicia Brewer of Brewer and Associates is here. You can also call her at 317-445-8932. Again, that's 317-445-8932 to get into the cohort that's coming up in May. You still have some time. How many spots are available there?
I have about 7 spots left.
7 spots left.
Mhm.
Yeah, so call today, y'all. Call today if this applies to you. If this is something that you feel a push in your spirit about right now, don't delay. 317-445-8932. Secure your spot. 317-445-8932. You'll be working with one of the best in the American Midwest region to get started and going forward. Strategy in grant seeking. It could dramatically change your situation, and then thereafter dramatically change things for our city. We're headed to the top of the hour. We got to take another break. When we come back, we'll have more with Felicia.
Mhm.
Right back.
This is Felicia. May I help you? I'm good. How are you? Oh, thank you. Hey, excuse me. I'm so sorry. I'm actually still in the interview. If I could give you a call back, I'm sorry. I actually thought you were my son or my dog's vet calling me with an update. So if I could give you a call back.
Social justice.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, ma'am. Okay, thank you so much. Bye-bye. Oh, that is too funny. Okay. They're on it. That's good. Okay. Jesus.
Is your dog okay, or you just some checkups?
I'm sorry. Second,
Is your dog? Is the dog just get some checkups, or?
no, she's sick.
Oh,
Yeah, she's at the vet ER. Yeah, so my son's friend girl,
mhm.
girlfriend, the titles.
Yeah.
Go figure.
These-
It's okay, you know, these Gen Zers. So she's there with her while I'm here. So she was just texting me, but it was the lady that called me. Her number is similar to the vet's number. So oh my God, the vet's calling me. Let me breathe, because I can't nothing happen with this dog. That is my son's baby.
Your dogs are like family. Like my dog. Well, she's passed now. But thank you. Yeah, they're like family.
Yes, yes.
Got about 15 seconds and we're back on. Oh, we got somebody calling too. Crazy, please hold.
All right. All right. Welcome back to Unity in the Community on this beautiful day in the city of Indianapolis. Not quite 50 degrees, but it's nice. It's mild out. I saw some people down here in downtown Indianapolis out jogging and doing things like that. So some of the trails are opening up and some of the trees are blooming, and it's time to get out there and just enjoy yourselves. 317-972-3008, 317-972-3008 is the number to call on this afternoon if you have some questions about 501c3s, grant writing, grant seeking, those kinds of things. The expert is in the chair today, right now, if you have questions. Felicia Brewer and Associates, Felicia Brewer and Associates is here. The cohort that we talked about before the break, 7 spots left, 317-445-8932. Again, that's 317-445-8932. There's something else that you're working on, and we were talking about this before we started, the Southside U.S. Color Corps Coalition.
Colored troop.
Color Troop.
Yes.
All right. So I don't know where I got corps from, but Southside U.S. Color Troops Coalition, you're working on that. Talk to us about that.
Yes. So the Southside U.S. Colored Troop Coalition is my labor of love, I guess you could say. What it is, it's a coalition of 4 neighborhoods founded on the southeast side by U.S. colored troops post-Civil War area. And the significance of this, the troops which is the U.S. 28th Regiment, was that they walked down to Galveston on June 5th to notify the slaves that they were free. And on their way back, they picked up some folks. And that's what helped in founding those 4 neighborhoods, which are Barrington, Bay Denny, Norwood, and Hosbrook Street. So that the quarter west would be the north perimeter, south is, oh my gosh, Edgewood Avenue so I'm like directionally challenged. On the east, it is Sherman Avenue, and then to the west, it's a West Street. So pretty decent catchment area. We're finding quite a bit of history within those neighborhoods about the descendants, with a significant number of descendants who still live and on their legacy properties.
And what kind of work are you all, or what are you doing down there?
So I've been working on the project for about 4 years. So we spent about first 2 years in the planning, just talking with the neighborhood residents and getting a better understanding not only of the history within the community, but then also what is it that you need. So went through that process. And then the second part of that in 2023, we actually started formalizing the organization. So there's an advisory board that represents each of those 4 neighborhoods. Actually, well, Hosbrook Street is street. And then, so we probably, let's see, actually about the last year, about this time last year, we started talking with Central Indiana Community Foundation. And so they became, in a nutshell, our fiscal sponsor, as we were just talking about, because this is a very huge project, as we're talking about economic development within a very under-resourced community. So we have focused on 5 pillars, which is coalition building. And that includes not only education and training, but also very deep community engagement. We also do creative storytelling, and that's where we're actually documenting the oral histories of those descendants within the community. And we're doing that through public art as well. And then the third is economic development. And that's where we're really working with Inglewood's Community Development Corporation and doing workforce development with them, as well as Inglewood has a program called Cultivating Communities, which is an asset-based community development program that's targeting congregations. So we have 10 congregations, I'm sorry, yeah, 10 congregations that we are working with that are were founded by U.S. colored descendants back in the 1860s to help them decide what is it that within your neighborhood, how do you want to serve? You know, church is outside the walls of the church. So they're working now as a cohort to kind of figure out how we want to show up and serve our community. And it's anywhere from workforce development to mental health, substance abuse, affordable housing. So they have very diverse food insecurity is another one with the congregation. So again, going through that process with them. And at the end of that, we'll be able to support the congregations with about $200,000 in helping with $200,000 in grants, just to help them again move their project along. So the other part is environment, and because there's a lot of land in the area, brownfields in particular. So trying to figure out exactly what that's going to look like. We're having those conversations. I guess is the best way to say that at this point. And then the last bucket is heritage preservation. And that's where we're trying to figure out exactly what does that look like. So we'll be doing, we've gone through one planning session with the community, and then we're probably towards the end of this year, we're going to go through another planning session, which will go out the more 3 to 5 years. So yeah, that's them in a very, very quick nutshell. We are going to be having our first community resource fair at Southeast Community Center, which is located at 901 South Shelby Street, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on March 15th. And why that is important is because what we learned was that the community doesn't always access what resources are in their community. So this is a way to bring all of that together. So a lot of the vendors that are going to be participating are right there in folks' back door. We're also partnering with the city. So there's 5 or 6 agencies that the community has requested, because this is very much a community driven initiative. And we have about 25 partners that we're working with throughout Marion County to just, again, try to help this community to better connect.
Yeah.
And whatever that next journey is for them, be able to help them define it as well as be able to execute.
And this community resource fair, is this a free event
It is a free event. Yes.
coming up on March 15th?
Yes.
Indoor, outdoor?
It is indoor
Okay.
at Southeast Community Center again, 901 Shelby Street. So some of the vendors, or some of the things that we'll be focusing on is definitely employment. Some India is going to be there. Some folks are from the Youth Development Organization. The city expungement is always a priority. I'm hearing in some things, land and development is another one. Pretty
Alright,
diverse.
and that's coming up on March 15th. Give the information about that's going to be on the March 15th, but the time and where and what people are going to find there.
March 15th, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Southeast Community Services, which is located at 901 South Shelby Street. Oh, we're going to be having food trucks there.
Food trucks.
Yes, food is always good.
Now, is there a cost for that? Do people have to pay or?
For the food trucks, yes.
Yeah.
So, but all of the other resources are actually
Okay.
at no cost. And I do want to mention, I think this is just kind of a side note. Southeast had mentioned that they are going to be doing, working as a United Way agency, tax services. So if there's guidelines and requirements to get those services at no cost, but that's something that's going to be going on that day.
And this South Side U.S. Color Troop Coalition, this was something you started, right?
Yeah.
And what
yeah.
precipitated you actually formulating?
So Kayla Austin, who's the project lead, I'm number 2 on that. It's really, she was someone brought her to me, and it's like, hey, this is what I'm doing, and this is so there was interest because it was a community initiative, and it was a collaborative approach. So very much wanting to be a part of it, and it has been absolutely amazing just working with this community and just finding out the stories and the legacy. It's so inspiring when you have people that are 95, 108 telling you stories about their great great grandfather that was fought in the Civil War, how they escaped slavery at the age of 13, and decided that they wanted to fight, and so many different stories, whether someone that started their church and because they know their calling with it. Um, yeah, it's a lot, but I think what me my why is because the community, um, it just kind of is, it's there,
Yeah.
and but I see the potential in it. I see what it wants. So, and there's, as we're finding out the history of not only the Black community, we're finding out the history of other demographics. So it's just it's a lot. But again, it's been 4 years. So obviously I am very much committed, and our team is very much committed in the long-term success as this community decides what their future is going to look like.
Yeah, good for you. That's outstanding. 317-972-3008. Going to Joyce. Joyce, welcome to the program.
Oh, and I like your platform. Anytime to get information out amongst the public is always a good thing.
Yeah.
So, 501c3, this is what y'all discussing.
Some of what we're discussing, yes.
Okay, so with some of what that 501 is government integration. I mean, back in the day when we went to church, they did tithes and offerings, so, but I think there's something linked with that. But if I'm wrong, please tell me. But they tell you what you can and cannot say when you're under that program.
You mean with a 501c3? You may be talking about churches.
That would be what that's linked to, I thought.
Well,
Unless I'm wrong.
well, there are different kinds of 501c3.
Okay, well, I'm talking about the one for the churches where they tell them what they can and cannot address.
So if I can respond, typically the church is automatically tax exempt. So typically when they're going for their 501c3, it is because they're wanting to go after grant funding. And there are some pots of money that could restrict what you're done, but that's why you have to do your research. But I think there's like the Center for Congregations, which is based here locally, that could definitely help you get a better understanding on the balance of that. But I would say probably about 50% of my portfolio are congregations. And more often that what they're doing, it's not necessarily that the church is getting a 501c3, but they're seeking a 501c3 because they want to do community development work. So that is the difference. So the church is not required to have a 501c3, but if the church within itself wants to go after grants, then they are. But and also with that, I would say that when they're going after grants for the church, they're already seeking funders who are more aligned in there, so there's not that issue. But I think you're trying to or would like addressed as far as like what you can and cannot say as a congregation. Does that help?
Bit, I'm still in the clouds on that because I'm thinking back in the day when I was growing up, ministers had jobs and
Mhm.
stuff, and the congregation paid tithes, but it seems to be a little bit different these days on what you can and cannot discuss in churches as to not offend anybody on that 501c3. Oh, churches is what I'm discussing. But, nonetheless, God is able and we will provide and we don't need no government intercession. But when church and state start meeting, I've always thought that was
So I'm thinking, I'm sorry, I had two.
church and state supposed to be totally separate, east to west.
That is true.
Okay.
So I would say to you that if even as a 501c3, that
Yes, I'm listening.
I'm trying to make sure that I say this in the best way. So more often than it's not that congregations are actually going after state and or federal funding. In some cases you may see that, but I would say probably more often than not, a church would be um, not one of the organizations that a funder would want to say. However, if the congregation, or excuse me, the church has a separate 501c3, that maybe they put their ministries, their ministries under a different umbrella, that's where they would actually go. So there's not that issue of church and state in that case.
All right. Thank you for answering that. And Joyce, thank you for your call and comment. We are out of time. Thank you all for being with us on today. I hope that you learned something. I hope that you got some information that you needed. If you would like to be part of the grant strategy cohort that's coming up in May 1st, May 2nd, and then there are some sessions that are going to come after that. Felicia, tell them how they can do that.
You can contact me, that's the easiest way, at 317-445-8932, or you can definitely go to the website, which is www.fbaresources.com.
All right, even if you are already a 501c3, you could benefit from a cohort like that, because there's going to be a lot of information disseminated during that time that would be applicable to your particular situation. Thank you for being with us on today. As always, Felicia, you've been a great guest.
Thank you.
Hope to have you back again.
Appreciate the opportunity to share.
You're welcome. And from all of us here at Praise AM 1310, 95.1, Indy's Inspiration Station, we like you, we love you, and you make us smile. Have a great weekend.
Thank you so much. Cool. All right. Yeah, appreciate it. Yep. Hopefully that was. Okay. Yeah. Well, I can talk all day long, man.
Say bye to the people.
Celebrating Women's History Month by saluting